Well, good morning, everybody. Today I'm joined by State Senator Jane Timken, former Second Lady Tina Husted, Andy Brenner, and Sharon Marshhausen, Superintendent of Dublin City Schools, as well as my wife, Fran. We're all here today in support of new legislation that is designed to accomplish exactly what I called for in my State of the State address last month: banning cell phones in Ohio in our schools once and for all. It's time to do that. In last year's State of the State, I talked about the need to take action in this area. We need to be sure that our classrooms, frankly, are now cell phone free. Senator Timken took the language that was actually passed, or that we talked about in the State of the State, and created a standalone bill, Senate Bill 158. That bill will ban student cell phone use during school hours. I want to thank her for taking that action. It is really time for us to do this. We all know that screen time is very, very addictive. Cell phone hazards, though, go even beyond that. Just having a phone nearby means students are receiving constant notifications all day long. Those notifications make it nearly impossible for students to focus and to learn. Studies consistently show that access to cell phones during school hours negatively impacts student learning and academic performance. Furthermore, these phones can be incredibly harmful to students' mental and emotional health. They expose our kids to things like cyberbullying, sextortion, which means that students are blackmailed with private, sensitive images, videos, or information. Both of these factors increase the risk of suicide among our children. Tina Husted and her husband, John, our former lieutenant governor and Ohio's newest U.S. senator, have been really leaders for a long, long time in protecting our kids from these hazards. And they have been working hard to make a difference. I want to thank them for all their work in advocating for our kids' safety online. We'll hear in a few moments from Tina. Last year, as I said, I asked the legislature to require every school district in the state to come up with a plan to minimize the use of cell phones in schools. As a result of that, our schools have really started to look at this. Many of them have already come up with plans. I think the results have been very good. We've heard repeatedly from teachers, principals, school board members, superintendents, and parents who say that when cell phones are banned during the school day, schools transform before their very eyes. They said that their kids are focused in the classroom. The lunchroom is noisy once again. Kids are actually talking to each other. The lunchroom is just different, they've told us. The kids are actually talking instead of burying their heads in their phones. These superintendents and principals and teachers tell us student engagement and attendance have actually improved. Grades are better. Socialization is improving and becoming more positive. The number of students being disciplined is down. All the numbers have improved. Even communication between students and teachers has improved because they have more opportunities just to interact with each other. As a country and as a state, we've learned much in this past year. Again, a year ago, we asked for the studies, or for the plans to the schools to study this, schools to come up with a plan and to implement that plan. But as we've looked at this and what has happened, and have seen the great results from the schools that have actually banned the cell phones. I think the jury is really returned on this issue. I think the evidence clearly shows from what we've seen across the state that every school in the state needs to ban the phones. It's time for us to finish the job. It's time to ban cell phones in every Ohio school. Senator Timken's bill will do just that. And now I'd like to ask Senator Timken to talk a little bit about her bill. Senator? Around there.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you, First Lady Fran DeWine, Governor DeWine, Senator Brenner, former Second Lady Tina Husted, and Superintendent Marshausen for all of your great work. It is my pleasure to take the mantle with this with Senate Bill 158. We've all seen since the explosion of social media and technology and cell phone use since the late 2000s that our children are more connected than ever to technology, but not to each other and interpersonal connections. We've seen through various social media apps that they are addicted. They are constantly on them, in their pocket, constant vibrations. It is estimated that the average child student in the classroom is getting over 11 notifications an hour. That adds up to almost 192 notifications during their waking hours. That means they're distracted, they're addicted, they're constantly wondering, what am I missing? What notification did I miss? This does not provide for a conducive learning environment, but also has damaging social effects. This legislation is a common sense approach to unplug our children from the constant distractions that they have in the classroom. It will reduce those distractions and allow instructions and facilitate the building of interpersonal relationships that are so vital to human development. By eliminating cell phone use in our classrooms, we will allow for improved academic performance and reduce the effects of cyberbullying and give students the tools that they will need to have a successful life academically and otherwise. I say, unplug our children so that they can plug themselves into a brighter future and thrive. Thank you.
Thanks, Senator. Thank you very much. Last year, I signed House Bill 250, which required schools to implement formal policies regarding cell phones. This was really, I think, the first step that we needed to take. It was the first step that really motivated hundreds of school districts to finally ban phones from their classroom. Senator Andrew Brenner led the way on getting the cell phone provision added to that bill. I'd like to thank him for that and ask him to speak. Senator.
Thank you, Governor, and thank you all for being here today. Yes, we started off, the governor gave his State of the State address a year ago, discussing obviously the use of cell phones in the classroom being a distraction. And I spoke with State Rep Tracy Richardson and House Bill 250, and we decided to amend that to start the process going of getting the cell phones out of the classrooms. One of the biggest concerns, and I know the governor and the others up here all share, is that we've had a lot of problems with behavioral issues in classrooms with bullying. We've had to use and pass bills like Braden's Law to deal with these types of issues. And not only that, we've had a significant amount of learning loss. And I think most of this, or a large chunk of this, can be attributed to the use of cell phones and the constant distractions that are going on in the classrooms. By getting rid of the cell phones, I believe that this is a step in the right direction of turning our Ohio students around. And this isn't just here in Ohio, we've seen this nationally. So I think this is something that, this is something where Ohio is taking the lead on this, and I thank the governor, I thank the former lieutenant governor and former second lady for also taking the lead in this a year ago. So I just appreciate all those that have been involved in this, and we are going to continue to work on it. In fact, later today, Senator Timken's bill will be heard in the Senate Education Committee. We will have both sponsor testimony and proponent testimony in favor of the bill, and I believe this is something that will move quickly in the Ohio legislature. So thank you very much, and again, this is something that's been long coming.
Thank you very much. Let me now introduce Superintendent Marshhausen, who has strongly supported removing cell phones from our schools. Dublin City Schools were among the first districts in Ohio to implement a policy restricting cell phone use during the school day. Superintendent, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Governor. I'd like to thank Governor DeWine and his continued efforts to provide mental health services and leadership in this area in Ohio. I'd also like to thank Senator Timken for introducing a standalone bill that will allow this legislation to move more quickly so that school districts have time to prepare and adjust policies and handbooks for the 2025-26 school year. And as Senator Brenner and I were talking, we've been working together for 15 years in various capacities, and his constant support for Ohio education is wonderful. As we went through this process in the Dublin City Schools, we had near unanimous support from our parents for banning cell phones from our schools. We have owned over 90,000 residents, and I received one complaint when we introduced the cell phone ban. In fact, as we've had meetings recently, our Business Advisory Council has talked about the importance of graduating students who can work and be successful without having the device in their hands. Our PTO Presidents Group has met and joined us as a district as we launch a campaign this spring to provide resources to parents when it comes to what can parents do during the summer months when it comes to parental controls on your phone, knowing what apps your students have, and when is it okay for a student to download certain apps at home. Because legislation like this not only gives us the opportunity as school districts to do the right thing, it opens up conversations with moms and dads, with grandmas and grandpas. Because what we do in school from 7:30 to 2:30 isn't enough. We need to partner with our parents. We need to collaborate with our parents. And mental health issues and our student safety takes all of us working together. And leadership like these elected officials bring to us in Ohio is a catalyst to those conversations, not only in schools, but in communities. So we're grateful that this bill hopefully moves fast through the legislative process, gets to the governor's desk so that as school districts, we have the opportunity to work this summer with our families, to work with our principals and teachers, to make sure that we give Ohio students every opportunity to be successful when they graduate. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Senator Timken's bill is one more way that we can use to make sure our children's cell phone use is really within healthy and productive limits. Another of those avenues is Braden's Law. Earlier this year, I was proud to sign Braden's Law, which takes effect actually tomorrow. The law is named after Braden Marcus, a 15-year-old Olentangy High School student from here in Central Ohio. Braden was the victim of a financial sextortion scam, which again means that someone attempted to publicly blackmail him with sensitive, private images, videos, or information. Unable to see an alternative solution, Braden tragically took his own life. Just a horrible, horrible tragedy. His family members, parents Jared and Jennifer Marcus and sister Ella Marcus, were not able to be here with us today, but they were key in making Braden's Law possible, and we thank them for that. Tina Husted was also very much involved in getting this done. As the mother of two teenage daughters, Tina is certainly passionate about this topic. She's joined us today to discuss not just Braden's Law and the role parents must play in keeping their kids safe online, but looking at this really from a holistic point of view. What do parents do when their children are not in school for the rest of the time, during summer and during after-school hours? Tina, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you so much, Governor. Thank you, Governor and First Lady, for your leadership. We know you love our families and our children. We're very, very grateful. Thank you, Senator Timken. Thank you, Senator Brenner, and Superintendent Marchhausen. We've talked many times, and this is a team. This is a team effort, and we're super, super grateful. I also want to just thank the General Assembly for the work that was done on Braden's Law and the cell phone policies in schools that we've been continuing to address. This is such an important issue. So thanks to them for sounding the alarm. And that's kind of what I've been thinking about, is sounding the alarm to our families and to our parents. Online safety for our children is one of the most critical issues of our time. We must be leaders in our state and our country for the safety, mental health, and physical health of our children. I've compared online use to smoking back in the 40s and 50s. We didn't know what we didn't know. And now we know it causes cancer, emphysema, and other health issues. And now, after 12 plus years of smartphone use since 2012, we know that excessive use has resulted in a sharp increase of mental health issues for our kids. I would suggest that online overuse is much worse than what smoking was years ago, because over 90% of people, including our children, are using smartphones, especially social media and other apps, many of them unregulated and often laden with online predators. Perhaps we thought by giving our children unlimited access to smartphones was that we would open their worlds up to good that's out there. But instead, we've given everyone, the good and the bad, access to our children. As a parent and as an athletic coach myself, I have witnessed firsthand the dangers that online apps and social media can have to young children, as well as to developing teens. Every person here, and in our state and in our country for that matter, should read the book, The Anxious Generation, written by NYU social scientist Jonathan Haidt. If you would like to dive into the very concerning statistics that our kids are suffering, both mentally and physically, from excess online activity, he outlines that online use is disrupting our focus and our human relationships. In addition, we have left our children's classrooms, bedrooms, and minds wide open to an uncensored world. One surprising stat, and I'm a stat person, I loved stats when I was in college, was that our children spend less time outdoors than our prison inmates today. Excessive device is also impacting vision and hearing due to screen distances from the eyes and excessive high-volume headphone use to the ears. Not only are suicide rates and depression rates skyrocketing, our kids' physical health is also declining. Another staggering stat is that children under the age of 8, think of that, 8, are now averaging 2 hours and 40 minutes on digital devices. And this is particularly hitting our lower socioeconomic classes even harder, with their averages being 3 hours and 40 minutes compared to higher socioeconomic classes at 1 hour and 40 minutes. I sent you that stat, Governor. It's no secret there have been accounts of sextortion and online bullying in the state and the nation, which at times, as we've discussed today, has resulted in loss of life. But I believe truly that there's hope for parents and families who want to help their children. So today I want to offer to you and to families and parents 5 suggestions that will help your child's online health that I have personally employed. First, learn how to set up restrictions on your child's phone. All phones have this option. Find a friend, a guidance counselor, or plenty of online sites that will help you teach yourself how to set up these restrictions on the phone. Limit your child's activity on their device to less than 3 hours a day, per Jonathan Haidt. A child's phone should not be in their bedroom when they go to bed. Set phones to downtime through these restrictions from 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. Download an app that sends alerts when there is harmful or risky activity. There is a developer in our own state of Cleveland who is working on one now called Cyber Safely AI There may be others out there with similar AI scans for digital threats. But most importantly, talk to your children. Make sure they know that they can come to you if they feel uncertain or threatened by anyone. As we have talked, we've had these legislative efforts with Braden's Law, cell phone policies in the schools, and now if you were listening to the federal platform, the Take It Down Act that the First Lady and Senator Cruz are talking about, I applaud all of those people who are involved in this great start, but we continue to need to educate our parents and our families. And for those who may object to concerns that this would be suppression of speech, I would suggest that age limits are set for a reason. There's a reason why children aren't permitted to smoke or to go to an R-rated movie or to purchase pornographic material. Those under the age of 18 have developing brains and bodies that can be impacted in a very negative way. We as adults need to protect them from the people who mean them harm and the online products designed to harm them. So no matter the resistance that we might hear, as we work on this issue together, always remember that our kids are our future. They are Ohio's future. They are our nation's future. We can all do this together to protect them and, in effect, make our families healthier together. God bless you, and thank you.
Thank you very much. We're happy to take questions.
Is there concern about a one-size-fits-all approach, or that some students may need to contact their parents during the day for an emergency?
Certainly, schools can work out those exceptions. I think the language legislation would allow that.
Governor, sorry.
Yes.
Jane, you want to come up here? Yeah.
There are exceptions in the language as it's being introduced today that will allow for technology use in instances when a child needs special instruction with that technology. So there are some exceptions. Obviously, the superintendents and others are going to have to work with the child, but we're allowing small exceptions in this case.
Governor DeWine and Superintendent Marshausen, at a Dublin City Schools event 1 year ago, you both said you wanted decision-making on this to stay local. Superintendent, you told me anytime that schools can make the decision without having there be a law, that's better for all of us. So why the change of heart in just a year?
Yeah, let me start, and then the superintendent can answer. I think, as you know, I'm a great believer in seeing what works. I'm a great believer in looking what happens out in our different communities, in this case, to see what's been happening for the last year in regard to our schools. And last year, we took a big step, and we asked every school to come up with a plan. The goal of the plan was to minimize the use of cell phones. We've now watched this unfold, and a number of our schools have implemented a plan. A huge number of them have implemented a plan. Now we've had the opportunity to talk to the schools, talk to the superintendents, the principals, the teachers, the parents in those schools to see what the reaction has been and how they think it's been working. How's it working? And it's come back just a huge result and a whole indication very, very clearly from school after school after school that banning these cell phones has been exceedingly helpful. They've talked about discipline problems going down. They have talked about those who banned it during the lunch hour. The lunch hour has been totally changed. Instead of everybody looking down and no one communicating this way, they're actually looking at each other and talking, and they're laughing, and they're doing what kids normally do. So the result has been, I think, overwhelmingly indicate that our children in Ohio are better off with no cell phones during the day. And so just as we said that the jury has returned in regard to the issue of science of reading and sounding words out and using phonics. And we went to the legislature several years ago and we asked them to do something we don't do very often, and that is to have unity in the state, and that every school would have to use the science of reading. Just as we did in this case, this is just as serious. And this is a very, very serious matter. It's interfering with kids' lives. It's interfering with their ability to read. And we have seen now in the schools that have implemented this great, good, very, very positive results. And so, it's my belief and the belief of some legislators, and we'll see what the legislation does, but that we should cross this next bridge. We took one big step last year. Now we're gonna finish the job. Who else?
Governor, do you plan on watching the HBO Ohio Confidential next week? It's the Alex Gibney film documentary about House Bill 60.
Oh, I don't know. I'll report back.
Families have told me that because of what they call Ohio's lax gun laws, they're worried that their kids won't be able to reach them during an active shooter situation. What do we do when there is an active shooter or a
Yeah.
lockdown going on?
So I'm going to ask for some help from the superintendent, but I'll start off with this. Schools with advice from experts have been working very, very hard to have a protocol and to follow that protocol. I think most experts look at this and think the use of cell phones many times will interfere with the execution of that protocol. So let me ask the superintendent if he'll talk maybe a little bit about what your perspective is on that.
One of the realities in today's environment is we all do safety drills on a regular basis. We now do active shooter drills on a regular basis. And at each step along the way, our staff's response, our communication with our first responders, and those steps that are taken to keep children safe don't include the children having cell phones. We all have reunification plans. So in the event that the unimaginable were to happen in one of our schools, we have drilled and practiced reunification plans with first responders, teachers, law enforcement to ensure we can get information to parents as quickly and as accurately as possible. None of those plans involve student individual communication with their parents via cell phones. I understand there's fear, and God forbid something like that happens in any of our schools. And our goal will be to get kids as safely back to parents as possible, but an individual student having a cell phone isn't part of any of those plans.
Why?
Because it clogs and slows the process. In any situation, if students are given directions on where to go, them looking down at their phones, them looking at their phones, it only slows the process as to what we're trying to do, what we've practiced when it comes to evacuating, when it comes to lockdown, when it comes to shelter in place. Whatever those plans are, students need to be paying attention to the adults who are giving them those directions. And if they're on their phones, it slows things down. So we need to remember that our job as schools is the safety of those kids when they're in our buildings. And in that case, the adults who are in the building, in the space with them, need to be the ones giving them the directions.
So let me just add that Superintendent Marshausen's comments are very consistent with our Office of School Safety and the advice that those experts give. And I think it's consistent with the advice that I've heard from other experts as well. Who else?
Governor, I wonder, is it time for the state to reevaluate its support for online schools? Obviously, you're on a device all day, you're next to your cell phone all day if you're on an online school. Should we be funding that?
Look, I think we should constantly be re-examining what we're doing in life, everything we do in public policy, at least to see what works, what doesn't work, what problems are there, what unforeseen problems are created. So I think we should always be open to examination.
Just a question, sir, what impact do you feel Braden's law?
I'm sorry, I missed the first part. What?
What
Take that one.
Senator Brenner.
Yeah. Andy?
Well, yeah, thank you. Well, obviously, bullying in general, and then, cyberbullying, which is what happened in the case of the Marcus family, and which led to this tragic, 27 minutes later, he committed suicide. Eliminating or reducing the amount of times that somebody can potentially be bullied during the school day. I mean, think about what we're doing here. And the question earlier was about, what do you do with if they don't have the cell phones? Well, a lot of kids are going to be interacting with each other a little more. You're going to be a little more attentive to the fact that when you're on a cell phone or a personal communication of any type and you're sending it out electronically, it's completely lacking of any human emotion. You're just sending something, and the other person is how they interpret it at the other end. And so that is what's led to suicides. It's led to other things. I think Braden's Law is a step to help prevent that by stiffening laws. But I think that by getting the cell phones out of the classroom, you're going to be able to eliminate this constant, kids checking their cell phones and potentially being bullied throughout the day. And I think that's something that we have to, as a society, come to grips with, that this is what's going on. And yes, I think parents need to be talking about it a little more when, the kids leave the school, they're going to get their cell phones back. I'm not for, banning cell phones completely, but I think during the school day when kids are supposed to learn, and we've had lots of learning loss, we've had lots of, cyberbullying and other things, I think we need to be taking that into full consideration, which is what's had to lead to a Braden's Law being necessary to pass. So I support it. I think that this is going to help maybe reduce the need for that law in the long run. Because if you have fewer opportunities during the school day to bully a kid who's sitting in, you got to remember, they're still sitting in a classroom setting. And if they're constantly getting their messages on their phone, that's a problem, especially if they're looking at their social media apps and they're reading stuff that makes them look bad in their own minds. And that's what leads to the mental health breakdown, which is why I think we've also seen a huge increase in the need for mental health. I think this will be something that could potentially also reduce the need for mental health in our schools. So I think there's a lot of things that are going on here that we are now, I think, and I know the governor, the first lady, everybody up here has tried to take a lead in, and I think that, we're going to continue going down this path, and we're going to be reviewing all of our public policies. And I think, again, Senate Bill 158, I think, is another great step, another, cog in the improvement of our schools and our students.
Senator Brenner, Senator Timken, you have this as a standalone bill now. What's the chances this gets added as an amendment to the budget?
Thank you. It is a standalone bill now. As we said, sponsor and proponent testimony is taking place today. The hope is to pass it and then maybe as an amendment to the budget. But stay tuned.
Governor, earlier today you said that you would like to see library funding returned in the budget to what you suggested. Have you been in contact with the speaker and with Representative Stewart? I guess, how are those negotiations going?
Well, what I said today is really what I've consistently said since we presented our budget. Obviously, this is our budget. This is what we think things should turn out. But we also respect the process. And the process is that you have the House with a bill that they will pass, the Senate has a bill that they will pass eventually, and then we'll all get together and try to figure it out. So,
No word on whether you veto it?
I'm sorry?
No word on whether you veto it?
Oh, no, we're not going to talk that. We're not talking the V word today. We won't get into that. We'll see. There's a lot of moving parts in this budget. Look, there's a lot of things in the budget that are, I think, very, very important to this state. Our public policy in legislative bodies and states is set by the budget, a great deal of it. And, what you invest in is what you care about. What you invest in is what you think is important. But we also realize that this is a budget that's now getting back to normal. We don't have the one-time money that we've had for the last few years. And so, choices have to be made. And whether that's over libraries or that's over schools or whether that's any other subject. So, these choices are just part of the process, and we're going through the process now. So what I told the library folks this morning is I think, consistent. We like what we put in our budgets, and that's shouldn't surprise anybody.
There's legislation that would require app stores to obtain parental consent before allowing to download apps. Can you talk about your thoughts on that bill and that approach?
I would have to look at that. I don't have an opinion today on that. Somebody else had a question.
If free tax sites were removed from the state budget, what kind of message do you think that sends? I mean, no more child tax credits going to be funded, the youth sports stadium fund.
Do I support what? I'm sorry.
Just your 3 tax sites were removed from.
Yeah, well, look, I think one of the very important things that we have in our budget is a $1,000 child tax credit. This is going to enable working families to make it easier for them. They have the choice of how they spend that money. It's entirely up to them. If you have both parents who are working outside the home, they could use it to pay for a portion of their child care, but they also could use it for anything else. If you have a family where one of the parents is staying at home with children, the other is working outside the home, they could use that for anything that they need. $1,000 doesn't solve every problem, but it's $1,000, and that's per child for children under the age of 7. So it's 1,000 or 2,000, sometimes 3,000, and it's significant. If we want to talk about tax cuts, this is the most effective way that we can spend money. It's the most effective tax cut that I can envision, because it goes to support the most important thing in our society, our families. However these families are constituted, these families are the core of our communities. They're raising the next generation. We're talking about working families. We're talking about families who, in some cases, are having a difficult time. They're struggling to make ends meet. So this is very, very important. And, I consider it very important. I think it would be a major step forward for the state of Ohio as we work every day to make Ohio the most family-friendly, most child-friendly state in the union.
We have time for one more question.
I have a question about the Browns bond package. Have you seen?
I thought we might get through the whole
Have you seen any financial analysis of the Browns bond package for the stadium from your budget director, Ken Newman?
Yes?
And what are your thoughts on that?
Well, at some point, I think that will be released. I have read it. I didn't agree with all of it. Agreed with some of it. But I think for me, the issue is much bigger than the Browns. And I know we always talk about this as being a Browns issue. It's not really so much a Browns issue. We have a challenge to meet, and that challenge is that we have more professional sports teams today than we've had in the past. The stadiums cost more to build. They cost a lot more also to rehab, just a phenomenal amount of money. And we are going to face this as a state for years and years and years into the future. How are we going to pay for these? How is the state going to contribute? And we can argue that the state shouldn't contribute, but the reality is the state has contributed in the past for the last 50 years. And other states are doing it. We value our sports teams. So the likelihood is that we will want to, as a state, contribute in the future. How's the best way to do it? The reality is we cannot afford anymore to use general fund dollars to rehab stadiums or to build new sports stadiums. We do not have the money to do it. That money directly competes with education. It directly competes with money that we could use to help people with a mental health challenge, people who have a drug addiction. early childhood development. All of these compete. But there is an avenue open for us. It's a wonderful avenue because we could write this so it doesn't involve taxing any Ohioans. Any Ohioans. 97%, 97.5% of all sports gaming is online. The vast majority, well up into the high 90s of that is from companies that are outside the state of Ohio. They're not employing anybody, not contributing anything. So we have the opportunity to do it, and that is to raise the fee, the tax, whatever you want to call it, on them. Doesn't raise it on Ohio citizens, raises it on these out-of-state people who are making the most money, making hundreds of millions of dollars every year from Ohioans. It's only fair that they should pay something more and have that money go to the stadiums where the activity is taking place, where they make all the money from. So this is an easy one. Don't tax Ohio citizens, tax people who are out of state, tax people who are already making a massive amount of money from Ohioans, and use that money for two big purposes. One, to take care of whatever obligation we think we have as a state to help the stadiums, the professional sports that we all love in Ohio, but also that money will be used, under my plan at least, that money would be used for youth sports as well. So, and that is about, whoa, both of you, hold on. That's $150 million to $180 million a year, we believe. I'm told that 150 is a very, very conservative amount of money. That money we can use and can accomplish. Follow up.
Release that. You said the budget director, she's going to be releasing it at some point. Would you ask her to release that prior to the omnibus coming out today?
I don't know about that. I mean, we're trying to follow the law and make sure we do it the right way, and make sure that there's no information that is released that would be not legal for us to release. So the lawyers are trying to figure that one out. So.
The budget actually cuts the Imagination Library by $4 million. How is this going to impact the program?
Want to take that? Want me to take it? I can take it. Thank you. Look, this is a very great program, and as Fran has talked about, we've mailed out, I think, about 20 million books since we started. It's available to every child in the state of Ohio, 0 to 5. We've done it with a partnership, and the partnership is between the legislature and the taxpayers of Ohio, who put basically half the money in. The local communities raise the other money. So, look, all of the things that we present in our budget, obviously we like, and I'm sure that the legislature that has supported the Dolly Parton Imagination Library will continue to support the library. Want to add anything? No? Okay. Thanks, everybody. Now I'm getting really yelled at back there. So.
We have to clear the room. Folks, we have to clear the room. Thank you, everyone.